Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's virtual office hours. We thank you so much for participating today. As a reminder, this session will be recorded. So if you're not the primary speaker, we do request that you will mute your phone line for best call quality. However, we always want your input, any questions or comments that you might have on the topic, that you could feel free to throw that information in the chat box or wait to the live question and answer component of today's discussion. So today we're talking about tips for apprenticeship program awareness and stakeholder engagement. I know stakeholder and employer engagement remains top of mind for apprenticeship programs, and we want to delve into that topic today. Our presenter is Melissa McGregor, who's Associate Director with JFF. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Andrea Messing-Mathey, JFF Director. Andrea?
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. As always, we're excited to have all of you for our virtual office hour. This is a chance for all of us to connect as peers in this subject and to have a chance to talk to each other much as we would in a hallway or in an office under normal circumstances. So we're excited to have Melissa talk to us about some of the work that she's done previously and some of the tips that she has for apprenticeship program awareness and stakeholder engagement. Melissa, thanks so much.
Great. It is so great to present to you guys today. I'm happy to be here. So I'm going to talk about employer engagement. I'm going to talk about what is employer engagement and identifying a value proposition, understanding business development, which is something that community colleges often aren't aware of, and some outreach strategies. Next slide, please. So what does engagement mean? I know Andrea and Cassandra and I have had many philosophical discussions about the word engagement and the idea that it's really overused for too many things. So I looked up engagement, and there are 8 definitions. So for this presentation, I'm specifically referring to how to sell employers on the idea of utilizing apprenticeship as a recruiting or retention strategy to support their workforce needs. And I'm using the word sell in a way that is really more about explaining and teaching them what a partnership with a college or workforce board could do to support a pipeline of talent, because probably they're not aware. And if you remember nothing else from my talk today, I want you to know that employers and anyone else will engage with you for their own reasons, not for yours. And that's why lots of conversations with employers are important, so you can understand what are their stakes, what are their reasons for wanting to engage with you. The number one sign to tell if someone or an employer is engaged is that they're going to ask really good questions. Just like I know that you're going to be engaged today because you're going to ask me lots of questions because you have some stake in engaging employers, right? Next slide, please. So the first step in going out to talk to businesses, you might get a business engaged and they're going to start asking you questions. And the only way to answer those is to, first of all, be really clear on why employers should do business with you. What is your value proposition? What brand are you promoting? What sets you apart from other training providers? Why should I, the owner of ABC Company, do business with you? And how can you distinguish yourself as the preferred provider of the solution to the problems that companies have? So understanding your place in the workforce ecosystem is critical, and then promoting it in all of your presentations. Next slide, please. So business development. Business development includes any activities that strategically build strong partnerships for the college or the organization. And it must include sustained interactions with businesses. Therefore, someone in your organization has to take a leadership role in this activity. So I'm going to hit the highlights on selling because that's the bottom line. You're selling the idea of partnering with your organization and why it's a good thing for employers. And you can be the commercial that attracts others to get engaged. Next slide, please. Sales 101. I bet you didn't know I was going to talk about sales. It starts with generating leads. What businesses are you going to go and visit? You have to decide on a good approach for your initial contact. Go on a process of discovery, asking tons of questions. Once you know what their needs are, then you can present what solutions that you might have, which may or may not be the apprenticeship program. And I know that this is an apprenticeship group, but once you're listening to the needs of employers, it would be good if you could solve whatever problem they have, right? Learning to handle objections, closing, and then follow up. Next slide, please. So generating leads, you're going to get these slides, so I'm not going to read through these, but there are dozens of ways to generate leads, and these are just a few. But I want to stress the importance of advisory committees if you're a community college, and your economic development director. Economic development directors are going to know who's in the community, what other businesses are in the community, who's moving in, who's moving out, who's expanding their footprint and is going to be in need of talent. So really get to know that person, take them to lunch, put a reminder on your calendar to call them on a monthly basis so you stay on their radar. That way the next time, they'll think of you the next time they're in a conversation with a company who's complaining about a lack of talent, and they'll say, oh, you should go to this person. Next slide, please. Initial contact. So when you're talking to businesses, you should make a plan or a strategy for who to contact and how. Why are you targeting this business? And your goal in this initial outreach is to schedule a meeting. When you get someone on the phone, don't start talking about all the offerings that the whole college has. You want them to block an hour on their calendar to meet with you at a later date. You're busy right now, and so are they. So schedule this conversation so you can be prepared. The next step is discovery. There are two parts to discovery: before you get to the meeting and during the meeting. So find out as much as you can about the company and whether or not they've done business with your organization in the past. And then when you get to the meeting, ask a lot of questions. When you ask companies, what are your workforce needs, or how can our college be a resource for your workforce needs, they will tell you everything. And you can't present the apprenticeship program to them at this point because you don't even know what their needs are. The apprenticeship program might not solve their problem, but if you discover a problem they had in the past with the college or anything else, and you're able to solve it with a different solution, you start to build trust, and that's a start. Next slide, please. So when you present solutions, now you've spent some time listening to what the employer's needs are. And you can say, I heard you say you can't find talent. Or I heard you say, all my people left in the Great Resignation. Whatever it was that they said, you have to know what it was that they said so you can use their words against them. Maybe not against them, but you have to know what they said. I heard you say X. One solution for this might be a talent development strategy, and we can help. And that's where you start to come up with the solutions, and not until then. You're going to get a lot of objections, and that's okay. It's part of learning. You should probably track the reasons why your program isn't a good fit, because if you start to hear the same issue over and over, you should consider modifying your program or your approach. Be flexible and always ask, what can we do to earn your business? Next slide. Closing the deal. So now you've had multiple meetings with all the different various people at the company before you get to the decision-making time. And you'll know when you're there, and you just need to ask them, do you plan to go forward with this strategy? And you wait for an answer, and you don't speak. And that's how you close. A lot of people get nervous about closing deals, and that's all you have to do. Ask if they plan to go forward with this strategy, and be quiet. And no matter what they say, if they say yes, if they say no, you still follow up with them, because follow-up is critical, really. So even if they say no, you want to follow up, and then you're going to go back into handling objections again. Follow up if they say yes is actually the beginning of the relationship, though. If you thought it was difficult to get the partner on board, now is where the work really begins. You're going to sign an MOU and outline all the things that you plan to do. And a lot of the things that you plan to do are going to require policies and procedures on both of your parts. Next slide, please. So this is just a few of the things that have to be done now. And this is what I meant by sustained interactions with businesses. There's a lot you have to do, and you're going to probably be in weekly contact at the beginning, and it's going to taper off as your trust grows and you're both getting the hang of it. This program is cycle. They make a hire, enroll them in classes, go to school, go to work, put theory into practice, reflect, ensure there's a wage increase, go to school, go to work, graduate, hire again, right? What are all the processes that this program prompts? Who is responsible? So the implementation phase in delivering is developing the internal policies and procedures, like who's going to be responsible for the recruiting? Have you built a course schedule? Does it meet with their needs? Who's going to register the apprentice in Rapids? Are you going to support the apprentice's mentor? You have to provide them with academic updates if you're the sponsor, and you're also the academic provider, the program provider. But there's just a lot to do right now, right? So this is why you might not be the one who's getting to make all of these decisions either. And so that's why partnership is really critical. Next slide, please. So this is some tips and advice. It's hard to know who to reach out to in a company, but any foot in the door is good. It's just better to meet with someone who has some authority to make things happen. So if you start with HR, you're definitely going to have more meetings with the company as they take the concept of the registered apprenticeship program up to their leadership team. And if you start with the president of the company, you will also have to get buy-in from HR and all the folks who are going to be mentoring and training the apprentices. But it's just an easier sell when you work from the top down than the bottom up. Make it easy. So companies are filled with busy people doing their jobs, and they don't have time to meet with you. So make it easy. Never meet with them for longer than an hour and respect their time. Business language. So never assume that employers are going to understand you when you speak the language of education. If you say credits and seat time, terminal learning objectives, semesters, mentor, certification, people in the corporate world never use these words in their lexicon. So learn to use the language of businesses when speaking to businesses. And for some, on both the college side and the employer side, apprenticeship is a fuzzy word. So try using worker training program, or the college has strategies to lift your business and help with a talent development. This is an investment in your talent. It's not a 2-year academic program. When I say become friends with your employer contacts, I really mean it. Go to their place of business, take the tour, listen to their issues. They may have some random obscure issue with your college that you would have never thought about, and ask for details, and then follow up with them afterwards and give them anything that would let them know that you heard them and you're on their side. And now they have an insider at the college, and you're beginning to build trust, and now you can think of other things you can do together. Clarity. Build a RACI chart or whatever you need. Figure out what are all the things that you're going to be doing versus all of the things that they're going to be doing. Some employers are going to have the capacity to sponsor and others are not. So be very clear on who is responsible for recruiting the apprentices, registering the apprentices, marketing the program, training, paying for the tuition, all of that. It should be outlined in your MOU. Reference materials, have a brochure and a website. Folks want something that they can reference and share with others. They won't remember what you said, and they're likely to have misheard you anyway. So have a place that they can go back to and look for clarity. And then employers have their own internal politics, and you may start to work with folks who are not involved with the conversations about hiring apprentices in the first place. And they may feel like they're saddled with more work. Companies need to get broad involvement also. They may have to write a new job description that doesn't have the degree requirements that all of their other jobs used to have, and it has to go through HR and some other internal processes. This is just like colleges. You have to go through curriculum committees to get curriculum approved. It just takes time. So be prepared for any kind of setback or things that just take time. Next slide, please. You want this employer to hire again and think of the great service that they receive from the college when they need something else in the future. So make sure to have a few feel-good moments while designing and implementing the program. Call them up just to take their pulse and check on them, see if they need anything. Let them know you heard their commercial on the radio or that you saw some article in the paper. And if you're checking in with them routinely, you will eventually hear them say that they could use some ESL classes for their night shift, or they were looking for a venue for their next company retreat, or they just got a new training initiative in DEI. And does the college have any resources for that? Make sure that the partnership can grow. So water it, give it some sunlight, have a signing day and a photo op, take videos and all of that. Next slide, please. So each phase of this cycle reinforces the other phases. And when you develop partnerships, that creates a story that you can post on social media to create awareness and generate leads. And when you make a video with an employer at their place of business with their apprentice at work, letting them speak about the impact the program has had on their business, that reinforces your partnership with them. And all the reasons that you wanted to create this apprenticeship program in the first place is to build something for a community college that increases enrollment, retention, and graduation. That's going to happen along the way. All the data that you've collected since the beginning on the number of apprentices you've trained, retention and graduation numbers, the number of businesses you're partnered with, all of your demographics. They can be seen as outcomes of the program. And then other businesses will be attracted to partner with you when they know about your successes. So data tells a very compelling story and becomes the value that you hoped for from the very beginning. So data, videos, testimonials, those are the rewards and the markers of your success. So that's my Sales 101 video.
Thank you, Melissa. So I want to make sure everyone understands the orientation. So Melissa comes to us from a community college. She's relatively new with JFF and comes to us from Harper Community College, which has a really robust apprenticeship program. I'm curious from folks that are on the phone. This is where we can kind of dive into our peer-to-peer conversation. As you are hearing some of this, where do you feel like some of that's resonating with you from a youth perspective, particularly those of you who are focused on secondary school or that transition out of secondary school into post-secondary school? Where do you, what's this kind of bringing up for you?
Hi, Andrea, this is from Career. My approach resonates with how we do business recruitment. Thanks for your time. One thing that I see that may be a challenge for us is generally when we approach conversations with businesses, youth apprenticeship is really kind of the only thing that we're offering. So it's like a little more forward in that way. So I'm wondering how others kind of manage that when there's not, multiple ways to help employers meet their needs, obviously with our position as an intermediary.
That's a great point. So I'm also very curious about that. When that's the only thing that you're offering, right? It becomes a tighter way for your lens. It becomes a much tighter lens through which you can view this work. Curious from other folks how you handle that. So Jake, I'll dive in there a little bit. I think that one of the things to be really clear about, and this is something I always talk about when I'm talking to folks in the field, is to be really clear about what it is that you're selling or what it is that your product is. Now, the human beings are not the product. The program is the product. The work is the product, right? So be really, really clear about what your parameters are. And then that helps you figure out what's fixed and what's flexible. So Jake, to your point, the work that CareerWise does, the youth apprenticeship kind of starting in that secondary school space is the fixed part. But there are flexible pieces of the puzzle that then you can respond to the listening. And I think Cassandra points out something really important. If they do come back to you and say, at this moment, we're just not interested in that, trying to connect them to other resources and organizations that can support their needs where a registered youth apprenticeship might not be the best fit, you can be a resource. And that I think that provides them with a sense that you're a good partner in the field. Partnerships are key. Partnerships kind of are the whole basket of this work. Without them, it becomes really difficult to make this work function.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Andrea is saying. It's critical when you're having those initial conversations with businesses that they know what it is that you're talking about. This isn't as if you're going to spring it on them, but you do want to know what their needs are so that you can figure out how to approach the conversation as if the youth apprenticeship will fit their needs. It's still, you still need to listen to them first. They have to feel like they're being heard. And then you can say, one approach to this might be a youth apprenticeship program.
One thing I'd actually love to hear from other folks on the call is what does your your engagement cycle, or how do you continuously have conversations with employers? It's not just a one and done, right? There's multiple conversations that happen over time. Like, how have you found the best way to keep employers at the table or keep them engaged in the conversation?
Hello, Andrea. Can you hear
Hi,
me?
Travis. I can. Hi, Travis.
Hi. Um, um, what I found, I'm pretty sure a lot of other organizations can attest to that, and where we've recently, maybe in the last year or so, I guess because of the pandemic, we haven't had a big shortage of employers that are, not interested in working with us. As a matter of fact, they're knocking down our door. We have a line of them. Our issue is to being able to provide the product for them, which I'm pretty sure everybody's having the same issue with working within the constraints that we have with the pandemic. Where our issues, some of the issues that I'm experiencing with our pre-apprenticeship programs, leading into our apprenticeship programs, is being able to find um, the type of resources that our employers are looking for when nobody is really looking to go into training programs or even employment at this time. And I was wondering if there's anybody else that were experiencing the same thing. What kind of strategies are they using to kind of track the type of product that we want to be able to create for our employees, so that our relationships with them as partners are meaningful, and it gives them a reason to come back because of the product that we're able to present for them and create with them.
Hi, this is Christy. I'd love to chime in on this. At least in my experience, one of the things that we've done is, beyond shopping for apprenticeship and youth apprenticeship in general, is that normally, you oftentimes you get a no. You get a like, no, this is not right now. This is too complicated, whatnot. And so what we would do is kind of make that employer partner. We would find other work-based learning techniques to bring on board with that employer and kind of keep them close. And so we would do a series of different, maybe mentorship events or like introductions to their company with some job seekers, give them an opportunity to really kind of give both our clients or participants a chance to demonstrate like, hey, look, I'm a great candidate, and the company to also meet our candidates as well. And we would do these kind of on a monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly basis, so that there was continued conversations. And while you're still having, you're showing them the talent maybe through a softer toss than apprenticeship, you can still keep that apprenticeship conversation going. And that was something that we would do. And then we would try to kind of explore bigger events or bigger, more meaningful, impactful work-based learning opportunities, and just would keep that conversation moving. And it can take a while, but it does work. Or at least in my experience, it's definitely helped. And then it keeps that employer close, and you have a great, to Melissa's point earlier, right? You have that friend, you have a close colleague, you have someone that person now trusts you and you trust them as well.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. All of this takes time. This isn't something that's, a quick fix. It's like, how long does it take to make a friend? Well, it depends on 100 variables and the people involved in all kinds of things, but it will take time.
So I could not agree more with what Christy and Melissa both just said. I mean, we're all playing the long game here. But Travis, I'm really curious, just to dive in a little bit. When you say like, what do you do if people aren't interested in joining like the training programs? Are you talking about young people that they're just not interested, or they're tentative about joining a training program, or is it the employers that are tentative? Like, where's the disconnect occurring for you?
The disconnect is with the participants. Like I oversee the in-school and out-of-school youth program. So the older youth, young adult population is where we're targeting for our pre-apprenticeship and our apprenticeship programs, and that's where the lack of interest is. That's where we're finding the most difficulties in recruitment and doing outreach.
I'm just curious from other folks, like, is that something that you're finding as well? I I think this might be a topic for future community of practice, Travis. I think you might have just pinged us on something.
Well,
and the thing that we try to emphasize is that now is the perfect time to pursue a career that doesn't require student loans or long-term training. Some situations where you can learn while you earn. Even pivot from one career to another with the easy transition being that there's such a great need for employees in the workforce, and there's such a gap in a lot of different industries that's actually looking to bring people on board, people maybe that don't have the college degree that's willing to do the training right now, and now is the perfect time. And it seemed like it's very difficult to engage that population, that 16 to 24-year-old population.
And thanks for raising that, Travis. That problem is unfortunate, is not unique. A lot of other programs across the country have echoed that same thing. So some of the things they've tried is about the messaging, making sure that the messaging is targeted a certain way for that particular group of individuals, as well as previous apprentices that have been successful using their success stories, having them come in and actually talk about that. But then two is really about partnering with other entities that are still touching that same group. So whether it's community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, or other organizations that also have a hiring initiative, seeing where there's opportunities for collaboration. So where there's opportunities basically in order to help each other meet the goals of what the employer needs as well. But yeah, the point that you're echoing is not unique, unfortunately. And it's a continuing conversation, an increasing conversation, especially in the COVID economy.
And I would encourage you, just as you would with employers, to track the reasons for people objecting, to figure out if maybe it's an issue with the way that you've designed your program. I know that I used to get, in terms of recruiting on the student side, I don't want to get stuck in a particular occupation or in a particular, which I thought was an odd reason to, first be interested in an apprenticeship program and then kind of back out. But if you're tracking the reasons, it could be that there's some thing about your program that you could just modify one little thing, the schedule or something that could assist you in attracting more people.
Okay. I was hoping if somebody had that was a good idea, but I was looking for I guess more best practices, that maybe some things that we haven't thought of, because we're fighting against a lot of different things. We're fighting against the pandemic. We're fighting against wages, high rent, and things like that. So I was wondering if there was any best practices out there that I hadn't already explored or had already heard.
Travis, I'm going to follow up with you after this. Cassandra just posted in there as well. I'm going to follow up with you after this, and let's you and I sit down and have a conversation and figure out if we can't start to get to the bottom of this, because I think what you're bringing up is a different topic, but I think an incredibly important one. This issue of kind of like, how do you actually get young people excited about this and enticed to join this movement and join an apprenticeship, particularly in the face of kind of competing crises. I think that's a trickier nut to crack, but some are doing it. And I think it'd be great to have a follow-up conversation on that. So Cassandra and I will follow up with you on that, if that's okay.
That's fine, because like I said, we don't have a lack of employers. We haven't beaten down our door. We don't have enough product for them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it is now 3:30 Eastern time. Central time, 2:30 my time. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today and for being part of this conversation. And thanks to those of you who spoke up and added some of your insights. I also want to, Cassandra, if you can just go back one slide. this is part of a broader community of practice. I think it was both Christy and Melissa that made the point earlier, like we're all playing the long game here. So part of this is about having these peer-to-peer conversations and about learning about things that other folks are struggling with, because it's likely that there are other folks in the ecosystem that are struggling with that same thing, and we can find ways of connecting folks. So if you would like to be part of this Youth Apprenticeship Works community of practice, please email Cassandra and join this community of practice so that we can continue to be part of that conversation together. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a great day.